The naturally occurring group being discussed today is a varsity high school softball team, the Clifton Mustangs. During my sophomore, junior, and senior year, I was an active member of this team. As a whole, there were 14 group members on the varsity team, 1 head coach, 1 assistant coach, 1 batting coach, 1 pitching coach, and 1 athletic trainer. Beginning in March every year, the softball team would meet 6 days per week, every week from March to June. On days that we had practice, we would meet at the softball field located at the high school. On days that we had home games, we would meet inside the high school stadium, which is where the softball field was located. On days that we had away games, we would meet in front of the high school to board a bus that would drive us to the opposing team's field. Depending on the week, we would typically have practice 4 days per week and games 2 days per week. This is known as the softball season. During practices, all of our coaches and trainers were present. Towards the end of the season, the junior varsity team would join us during practices to prepare to move up the next year. And during the games, all of our coaches, trainers, and the umpires were present, along with the majority of our parents who would come to watch us play. They would sit in the stands off to the far right of the field. According to Lyman and Scott, space is an important aspect for a softball team to consider because we must understand where the group will meet, how much room we will need, and how we must behave as a team and as individuals in our physical environment. As a group, we interacted in 3 different forms of space, which is known as territories. In public territories, we had the freedom to access the softball fields, the locker rooms, storage closets, and bathrooms, but we did not have the authority to claim citizenship there. These were public areas that were open to our softball team coaches and trainers, especially during games and practices. On game days, our parents were permitted to come watch at the game field. During our time spent at the practice and game locations, we were expected to be on our best behavior. No illegal activities or bad behavior was tolerated. Another territory my softball team experienced was home territories. Before we went to Florida for our spring training, we would get together as a team at somebody's house and make t-shirts together. During my senior year, the whole varsity and JV team came over my house and we made t-shirts together that said the Clifton Mustangs and had our number on it. We enjoyed going to each other's houses for activities like this because it was a comfortable environment. One of our parents would cook us food. We would all wear lazy, comfortable clothes like sweatpants and t-shirts, and we would just hang out and listen to music together. It was a great team bond experience that we really enjoyed year after year. Lastly, the final territory my softball team experienced was interactional territories. I would consider most of the time I spent with my team to be interactional. Whether we were at practice, at a restaurant eating together, or giving each other a pep talk before a game started, we were constantly in a social environment interacting with each other. Sometimes it was difficult for new team members who moved up from the JV team or came from a different school to interact with members already on the team, but we did our best to make them feel as comfortable as possible. We would try to incorporate them into our team rituals and keep them updated on any things that we planned on doing after a game, such as going out together. The physical environment played a large role in the interactions amongst the team members. According to Cole, rituals are symbolic actions with spiritual, cultural, or social meaning that contribute to the client's identity and reinforce the client's values and beliefs. For our team, rituals were important because during every practice and game, every member of the group was required to wear the same outfit. On the days that we had practice, we all coordinated what color sweatpants and t-shirts we would wear so that we would all look the same. On days that we had games, we all wore a matching uniform that said our town's name on it and our number. This reinforced our commitment to the team because we wanted to create a sense of togetherness and unity. Another ritual we had was cheering for each other. When one member of the team was up to bat, the rest of the team would stand near the fence and cheer them on. We had a specific cheer for each team member, which incorporated their name and number. It was a tradition that our team started back in the 70s with our coach, and it was important to her that we engage in cheering during every game. As an individual on this team, I felt a connection to the number 16 and felt strongly about getting that number every year. Similarly, my teammates felt the same about their specific number that they chose, and we were all sure to pick the same number year after year. It became a ritual because it was something that we each valued and felt strongly about. I really enjoyed the rituals my team had because it reminded me of our identity and values as a team. It was important to us to look unified, and through our outfits, we were able to achieve that. According to Cole, routines are patterns of behavior that are observable, regular, repetitive, and provide structure for daily life. They can be satisfying, promoting, or damaging to one's occupations. For our team, the team routinely met 6 days per week. It promoted our successful engagement in the activity through repetitively practicing. We would do things such as hit balls, run bases, ground the balls, and any other method that we had of practicing. I was the pitcher, so for me, a routine that I had during practices was pitching a bunch of different pitches to the catcher. During the softball team, every member agreed on a time and a place that we were able to meet so that we could practice together. My favorite routine of all is when my team would go to Florida every year for spring training. We were allowed to stay in the spring training Disney resorts with a lot of other softball teams and baseball teams that came from all over the country. The varsity team would go every year in March to have the opportunity to practice outside, since during that time in New Jersey it's very cold outside. It was a fun experience to have, and it was great because we were able to bond with each other as a team. I was given the opportunity to go 3 times, and if I could, I would go there again now. I would definitely say that routines were a very important part of our softball team, and without them, I'm not sure we would have been able to be successful. In order to make sure everything on the team went smoothly, we looked at our coach. Our coach showed a directive leadership role because she selected the activities and structured the group in a way that would be therapeutic and beneficial for the group members. Our coach was responsible for setting the goals of the group, the level of structure, and the extent to which responsibilities and roles were shared amongst the group members on the team. The head coach of the varsity team assumed a directive leadership position because prior to the beginning of the season, she would go to meetings with softball coaches from other teams and create our schedule for the year, planning both home and away games. She was responsible for structuring our practices and games by telling us when and where to meet. During practices, she decided what equipment we would be using and what type of practice it would be, such as hitting practice or fielding practice, and sometimes we would do conditioning the whole time. Since my coach was a softball player her whole life prior to being a coach, she used the experiences she had to structure our team. Although she took some input from the players, our parents, and the assistant coaches, she was ultimately responsible for making all of the final decisions. This was a great type of leadership style for our team because we knew exactly what was expected of us, and we were able to rely on her for anything we needed. In addition, there were many different roles on our team. According to the OTPF, roles are a set of behaviors by the group or population expected by society and shaped by culture and context that may be further conceptualized and defined by the group or population. Roles were an important part of our team as they helped to make the social interactions between us meaningful and productive. On the varsity team, we were assigned task roles based on our position. For example, I was the pitcher, so according to Cole, my group task role was to orient the group to the activity we were currently engaging in, whether it was a game or a practice, and remind our team how important it was that we tried our best to win the game. I was closely associated with the catcher who had similar role as me. Our assistant coach was assigned the role of recorder, and she had to keep track of how many times each batter struck out, walked, and or got a hit, and how many pitches were thrown during each game. The head coach took on many roles for our team, such as the initiator-contributor, information seeker and information giver, coordinator, and evaluator-critic. Roles were a vital part of our team because they defined who we each were as individuals and helped contribute to the group cohesiveness that ultimately formed. Cohesiveness was definitely an important part of our team. According to Yalom, it is the final stage of group development, and it is characterized by the presence of group spirit, high morale, and support for each other. When I first became a part of the varsity team, it was evident that the members that were already part of the team had reached group cohesiveness. They had a strong bond and seemed to be personal friends during softball games and practices and outside of games in their personal lives. In particular, when our team went to Disney for spring training, I felt like we truly built our bond, felt a sense of belonging with each other, and we were able to identify the value of our team. In Disney, the younger players, such as myself who had just moved up to varsity, had the opportunity to learn more about each other, and we learned how to work through conflict as a team. It was a true bonding experience that set the tone for the remainder of the softball team. The group cohesiveness was formed at that time and carried through for the rest of the season and the seasons in following years. Lastly, it was important that as a team, we understood that although it was important to win, and that was our ultimate goal, that is not always the way that things are going to go. According to Yalom, existential factors include facing certain realities in life that may be difficult, and recognizing these realities may have a negative implication if they are not recognized and discussed accordingly. Being part of a softball team that plays at a competitive level means that we will experience gratifying wins and devastating losses. During my senior year on the varsity team, we won enough games during the regular season that qualified us to compete with other teams for the state championship. For about a month, once we found out we qualified to play in the state championship game, we were ecstatic. Of course, we made t-shirts so we could wear them to practice. We practiced extra hard every single day, and we had pep talks about how amazing it would be to win the title of state championships. Sadly, when it came time to play that game, we lost against the opposing team. We experienced feelings of hopelessness, and we could not understand how this had happened to us after we worked so hard for so long. My coach recognized the importance of discussing existential factors with us and told us that sometimes, no matter how hard you work for things, you don't get them. She told us that we were going to have to take some time to be proud of ourselves for the rest of the season, despite this loss. At the end of the day, it was great to hear her kind words and to get support from my teammates, but I knew I had to deal with this loss on my own, despite anything that anyone would tell me. It was through times like this where our group cohesiveness was more evident than ever. I am so thankful that I had the opportunity to be a part of the varsity softball team for 3 years. My teammates and I learned so much about ourselves through being part of the team. Through our wins, we learned how hard work truly does pay off, and that the more time and effort you put into something, the more meaningful it is to achieve your goal. And through our losses, we learned that despite how badly you might want something, some things are out of your control and you have to learn to accept that. We created a bond that can never be lost, no matter how many years pass. We will always look back and remember all of the memories we made together as a team.